In the summer of 1987, a group of 5 friends embarked on a week-long camping trip along the Kenai River in Alaska. The group consisted of Mark, an experienced outdoorsman, his younger brother, Luke, Sarah and Emily, childhood friends and avid photographers, and Tom, an amateur angler, eager to test his skills in the renowned waters of the Kenai. The trip promised breathtaking views, days filled with adventure, and nights under the stars. The group paddled their canoes down the river, marveling at the surrounding wilderness. Towering evergreens lined the banks, their reflections shimmering on the water. The sound of rushing rapids filled the air, accompanied by the occasional splash of fish breaking the surface. By the 4th day, the group had settled into a rhythm, setting up camp each night along the riverbank. That evening, they chose a secluded spot nestled between a bend in the river and a dense forest. The campsite was picturesque, with a small clearing perfect for pitching tents and a nearby log for sitting around the fire. After a dinner of freshly caught fish, the group stored their remaining food in bear-proof containers and secured them high in a tree. They had heard stories of grisly encounters in the area, but felt confident in their preparations. As the group drifted to sleep, the forest seemed alive with nocturnal sounds. The rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, and the gentle flow of the river. Around midnight, these familiar sounds were interrupted by a low growl. Mark, sleeping closest to the fire pit, stirred awake. He unzipped his tent and scanned the campsite, his flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. The growl came again, deeper and closer this time. From the edge of the clearing, a massive grizzly bear emerged, its silhouette illuminated by the dying embers of the fire. The bear's size was staggering, its thick fur glinting in the faint moonlight. It sniffed the air, drawn by the scent of fish and food. Mark froze, his heart pounding as he watched the bear lumber toward the center of the campsite. The bear's movements were deliberate, its massive paws silent against the soft earth. It approached the tree where the food was stored, standing on its hind legs and swiping at the container. The others awoke to the sound of cracking branches and the bear's growls. Mark signaled for them to stay inside their tents, his hand gripping the bear's spray tightly. The bear's frustration grew as it failed to reach the food. It turned its attention to the tents, sniffing and pawing at the nearest one. Inside, Emily and Sarah huddled together, their breaths shallow as the bear's shadow loomed over them. Mark stepped forward cautiously, releasing a burst of bear spray. The orange mist hit the bear's face, causing it to roar and retreat slightly. The bear's retreat was short-lived. It charged at Mark, swiping with its massive paw and knocking him to the ground. Mark rolled away, the canister of bear spray slipping from his grasp. Tom grabbed a burning log from the fire pit and waved it at the bear, the flames casting flickering shadows across the campsite. The bear growled, momentarily distracted, giving Mark enough time to scramble to his feet. The group gathered near the riverbank, their backs against the water as the bear circled them. Luke, thinking quickly, threw a rock at the bear, striking its shoulder. The bear roared and charged again, its powerful frame barreling toward them. Sarah grabbed the second canister of bear spray and aimed it at the bear's face. The spray hit its mark, and the bear reared back, shaking its head and growling. Seizing the opportunity, the group made a break for their canoes. They pushed off into the river, their hands trembling as they paddled into the current. The bear paced along the bank, its growls echoing over the water. It clawed at the ground in frustration but did not enter the river. The group paddled downstream, their breaths ragged as the adrenaline coursed through their veins. Hours later, they reached a ranger station, their clothes damp and their faces pale. They recounted the attack to the rangers, describing the bear's aggressive behavior and the destruction of their campsite. The rangers listened intently, their expressions grim. They explained that the bear's actions were likely driven by hunger and the scarcity of food in the area. The rangers dispatched a team to investigate the site, while the group was transported to a nearby town for medical attention. Mark's injuries were treated, and the others were checked for signs of shock and hypothermia. Despite their fear, they were relieved to have survived the ordeal. The attack left a lasting impression on the group. Mark, though injured, continued his outdoor pursuits with even greater caution and respect for wildlife. Sarah and Emily's photographs from the trip became a somber reminder of the wilderness's beauty and its dangers. Tom and Luke, though shaken, found solace in their bond as brothers, their shared experience strengthening their relationship. The bear attack on the Kenai River became a cautionary tale among the local outdoor community. For those who survived, It was a defining moment, a harrowing reminder of the wilderness's unpredictability and the thin line between adventure and danger. For years to come, they would recount that summer night by the river, their voices tinged with both awe and respect for the formidable predator that had tested their limits and changed their lives forever. In the fall of 2015, a team of researchers ventured into the remote wilderness of British Columbia to study the region's elusive wolf population. The team consisted of Dr. Evelyn Parker, a wildlife ecologist, Jack Simmons, an experienced tracker, Maria Torres, a graduate student eager to prove herself, and Liam Brooks, a field assistant responsible for maintaining equipment and logistics. Their destination was an isolated valley, known for its dense forests and diverse wildlife, accessible only by a 2-day trek through rugged terrain. The first few days of the expedition were uneventful but productive. The team set up trail cameras, collected scat samples, and documented tracks, their progress steady despite the challenges of the wilderness. Evelyn, the leader, emphasized the importance of safety in bear country, ensuring food was stored properly, and that everyone carried bear spray. The occasional bear track served as a reminder of the risks, but the team remained focused on their work. On the 4th day, the group moved deeper into the valley to check camera traps placed near a small creek. The forest grew denser, the trees towering overhead and the underbrush thick with ferns. The air was cool and damp, carrying the faint scent of moss and earth. As they approached the creek, Jack noticed fresh claw marks on a nearby tree, deep grooves that indicated a large grizzly bear had recently passed through. He pointed them out, his expression serious. Evelyn nodded, her hand instinctively moving to the canister of bear spray on her belt. The team proceeded cautiously, their conversation subdued. At the creek, they found the camera trap intact and downloaded its footage. The images captured wolves, deer, and other wildlife, but one series of photos showed a massive grizzly moving through the area just hours earlier. The discovery heightened their awareness, and they decided to finish their work quickly and return to camp before dusk. As they retraced their steps, the forest seemed to grow quieter. The usual sounds of birds and rustling leaves were replaced by an eerie stillness. Evelyn's instincts told her something was wrong, and she signaled for the group to stay close. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled through the trees, followed by the sound of snapping branches. The grizzly bear emerged from the underbrush, its massive frame and dark eyes fixed on the group. The bear's size was staggering, its powerful body dwarfing the humans before it. Its fur was matted and its movements were slow but deliberate. It growled again, a warning that sent a chill through the group. Evelyn raised her bear spray, her voice steady as she motioned for the others to back away slowly. The bear advanced, its growls growing louder. The attack was swift and terrifying. The bear charged, its speed and power overwhelming. Liam, caught off guard, stumbled and fell, drawing the bear's attention. It swiped at him, its massive paw knocking him to the ground. Evelyn fired a burst of bear spray, the orange mist hitting the bear's face. The bear roared in anger, momentarily retreating but remaining a threat. Jack grabbed a fallen branch and waved it at the bear, shouting and trying to distract it. Maria pulled Liam to his feet, her hands shaking as she helped him limp toward a cluster of boulders. The bear turned its attention to Jack, charging again. Jack struck the bear with the branch, but the impact was negligible. Evelyn fired another burst of spray, hitting the bear's eyes. The bear roared and swiped at Jack, its claws raking his arm and sending him sprawling. The group scrambled onto the boulders, their breaths ragged as they huddled together. The bear circled the base, growling and swiping at the rocks. Maria worked frantically to bandage Liam's leg, using supplies from their first aid kit. Evelyn and Jack, despite their injuries, stood guard, their bear spray canisters at the ready. The standoff lasted for hours. The bear's persistence was relentless, its growls echoing through the forest. As night fell, the group's hope waned. They knew they couldn't stay on the boulders indefinitely. Evelyn devised a plan to create a diversion, using their remaining food supplies as bait to lure the bear away. Evelyn and Jack lowered a pack containing food onto the ground with a rope, tossing it toward the opposite side of the clearing. The bear's attention shifted as it caught the scent. It lumbered toward the pack, sniffing and pawing at it. The group seized the opportunity to climb down and move toward a nearby ridge, using the terrain to put distance between themselves and the bear. The trek was grueling. Liam's injuries slowed their progress, and the darkness made navigation difficult. Evelyn led the way, her flashlight cutting through the shadows. Jack and Maria supported Liam, their determination keeping them moving despite their fear and exhaustion. By dawn, they reached a ranger station marked on their map. The rangers acted swiftly, treating the group's injuries and dispatching a team to track the bear. Liam was airlifted to a hospital, where he underwent surgery for his injuries. Jack's arm required stitches, and the others were treated for minor cuts and bruises. The bear was later located and tranquilized by wildlife officials. They determined that its aggressive behavior was likely due to hunger and stress caused by environmental changes. The incident highlighted the importance of respecting wildlife and the unpredictability of nature. For the team, the encounter left lasting scars, both physical and emotional. Evelyn returned to her work with a renewed commitment to wildlife conservation, using her experience to educate others about safety in bear country. Jack, though shaken, continued his career as a tracker. His respect for the wilderness deepened. Maria and Liam, bonded by their shared ordeal, remained close friends, their experience shaping their outlook on life. The story of the grizzly bear attack in the remote valley became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fragility and resilience of the human spirit. For those who survived, it was a defining moment, a testament to their courage and the unyielding power of the natural world. In the summer of 1979, a group of biologists set out on a research expedition in the remote forests of Alaska's Tongass National Forest. The team included Dr. Margaret Steele, a leading wildlife ecologist, her assistant David Foster, Sarah, a graduate student eager to gain field experience, and Ben and Claire, two park rangers assigned to provide safety and logistical support. Their mission was to document the region's black bear population, track migratory patterns, and study the ecological impacts of deforestation. The team's journey began with optimism. They traveled by boat along the rugged coastline before trekking inland to a dense section of forest rarely explored by humans. The towering Sitka spruce and western hemlocks formed a green cathedral, their branches filtering the sunlight into soft golden beams. The forest floor was a tangle of moss, ferns, and fallen logs, alive with the sounds of birds and insects. The air carried a mix of salt and pine, a reminder of the nearby sea. For several days, the team set up camera traps, collected samples, and documented sightings of wildlife. The occasional bear tracks and distant growls reminded them of the territory they were in, but the group's training and precautions kept them confident. Food was stored in bear-proof containers, and each member carried a canister of bear spray. Ben and Claire, experienced in the region's challenges, ensured that the team adhered to strict safety protocols. On the fifth day, the group ventured deeper into the forest to check a series of camera traps near a stream. The water was crystal clear, teeming with salmon making their seasonal run upstream. It was the perfect feeding ground for bears, and fresh tracks on the muddy banks confirmed their presence. Margaret decided to split the team into two groups to cover more ground. She and David would check the upstream traps, while Sarah, Ben, and Claire would handle the downstream ones. Margaret and David moved cautiously along the stream, their boots squelching in the soft earth. The air was thick with the scent of fish and damp vegetation. They found the first camera intact, its memory card full of images. As they moved to the next trap, a deep, guttural growl stopped them in their tracks. From the shadows of the underbrush emerged a massive grizzly bear, its eyes locked onto them. The bear's presence was a stark contrast to the tranquility of the forest. Its size and demeanor radiated power, its fur glistening with moisture from the stream. Margaret and David froze, their instincts taking over. They slowly backed away, their hands gripping their bear spray canisters. The bear's growl deepened as it advanced, its movements deliberate and menacing. Suddenly, the bear charged. Margaret fired her bear spray, the orange mist enveloping the animal's face. The bear roared in fury, shaking its head and swiping at the air. David stumbled as he tried to retreat, his foot catching on a root. The bear turned its attention to him, swiping with a massive paw and knocking him to the ground. Margaret shouted and sprayed again, the chemical stinging the bear's eyes and nose. It reared back but didn't retreat. Meanwhile, downstream, Sarah, Ben, and Claire heard the commotion. Ben grabbed his rifle and signaled for the others to follow. They moved quickly but cautiously, the sounds of the bear's roars and Margaret's shouts guiding them. When they arrived, they saw Margaret trying to shield David, who lay motionless on the ground, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Ben raised his rifle and fired a warning shot into the air. The bear turned, its attention shifting to the newcomers. It charged at them, its massive frame crashing through the underbrush. Claire fired her bear spray, the mist hitting its face again. The bear roared and swiped at Claire, knocking her to the ground. Sarah pulled her away as Ben fired another shot, this time grazing the bear's shoulder. The animal roared in pain and finally retreated into the forest. The team quickly regrouped. Margaret was shaken but unharmed, while David's injuries were severe. His leg was broken and deep claw marks marred his side. Claire's arm was bruised, but she insisted she was fine. Ben and Sarah fashioned a makeshift stretcher using branches and a tarp, working quickly as the sounds of the forest began to return to normal. The journey back to their base camp was grueling. Ben and Sarah took turns carrying the stretcher, while Margaret and Claire kept watch for any sign of the bear's return. The dense forest seemed to close in around them, every rustle of leaves or snap of a twig setting their nerves on edge. The weight of the stretcher and the uneven terrain tested their endurance, but their determination kept them moving. By the time they reached camp, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the forest. They secured the perimeter and tended to David's injuries as best they could. Margaret used the satellite phone to contact the nearest ranger station, relaying their location and the urgency of their situation. The wait for rescue was agonizing, each hour stretching into an eternity. At dawn, a helicopter arrived, its blades cutting through the still morning air. Medics stabilized David and prepared him for transport, while the rest of the team was airlifted to safety. David underwent surgery for his injuries and began a long road to recovery. Claire's bruises healed quickly, but the emotional scars of the encounter lingered. The bear was later tracked by wildlife officials, who determined that it was likely stressed and aggressive due to a combination of hunger and territorial instincts. The attack prompted discussions about human impact on bear habitats and the importance of safety measures in the wilderness. For the team, the encounter was a sobering reminder of nature's unpredictability and power. Margaret continued her work as a wildlife ecologist, her resolve to protect both humans and animals stronger than ever. Ben and Claire remained in their roles as rangers, their bond strengthened by the experience. Sarah, though shaken, pursued her studies with a newfound respect for the wild. The story of the bear attack in the Tongass National Forest became a cautionary tale for adventurers and researchers alike. For those who survived, it was a defining moment, a testament to their courage and the delicate balance between humanity and the untamed world. In the summer of 1995, 4 friends set out on a backpacking trip through the rugged terrain of Colorado's Rocky Mountain National Park. The group included Ethan, a seasoned outdoorsman and the de facto leader, Lucy, an adventurous photographer, Greg, a geology student fascinated by the region's formations, and Anna, a newcomer to wilderness trekking, eager to push her limits. They planned a 5-day loop, traversing remote trails and camping under the stars. The trip began with perfect weather. The group navigated steep ascents and narrow switchbacks, their packs heavy but their spirits high. The forest was alive with the sounds of rustling leaves, bird calls, and the occasional distant howl of coyotes. By the 3rd day, they had reached a secluded alpine meadow, surrounded by towering peaks and a glacial stream. It was an ideal campsite, and they set up their tents near the edge of the meadow. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the group gathered around a small fire. They cooked a simple meal, sharing stories and marveling at the clear night sky. The Milky Way stretched above them, a reminder of the vastness of the wilderness. They stored their food in bear-proof canisters and hung the containers high in a tree, following all the safety precautions Ethan had drilled into them. The attack came in the pre-dawn hours. Ethan was the first to wake, startled by the sound of heavy footsteps and the low growl of a grizzly bear. He unzipped his tent just enough to peer outside. The bear was massive, its fur shimmering in the pale light of the moon. It sniffed the air, drawn by the scent of the campsite, and moved deliberately toward the tree where the food was stored. Ethan's movements woke the others, who quickly realized the danger. They stayed still, their hearts pounding as the bear clawed at the tree, its immense strength causing branches to crack. Frustrated by its inability to reach the food, the bear turned its attention to the tents, drawn by the faint scent of sweat and fear. The bear's first target was Lucy's tent. It pawed at the fabric, the sharp claws tearing through the material with ease. Lucy scrambled out just in time, her camera bag in hand. The bear roared, its powerful jaws snapping inches from her as she stumbled backward. Ethan grabbed his bear spray and released a burst, the orange mist hitting the bear's face. The bear growled in anger, retreating momentarily but remaining a menacing presence. Greg and Anna emerged from their tents, their faces pale with fear. They joined Ethan and Lucy near the fire pit, forming a tight group. The bear circled them, its dark eyes fixed on their every movement. Ethan signaled for everyone to move slowly toward the ridge at the edge of the meadow, hoping the higher ground would provide some safety. The bear charged again, its speed startling despite its size. It swiped at Greg, its claws raking his pack and knocking him to the ground. Anna screamed, grabbing a branch and waving it wildly. The bear hesitated, its focus shifting to the noise. Ethan used the distraction to fire another burst of spray, driving the bear back a few feet. The group climbed the ridge, their breaths ragged and their movements frantic. At the top, they found a cluster of boulders and huddled together, their backs against the rocks. The bear paced below, growling and swiping at the ground. Greg's shoulder was bleeding, and Anna worked quickly to bandage the wound using supplies from their first aid kit. The standoff lasted for hours. The bear's persistence was unrelenting, its growls a constant reminder of the danger. As the first light of dawn broke, the animal finally retreated into the forest, its massive form disappearing among the trees. The group remained on the ridge, their bodies tense and their minds racing, until they were certain the bear was gone. They descended cautiously, their campsite a scene of destruction. Tents were shredded, supplies scattered, and the food canisters lay dented but intact. Ethan assessed the situation, his expression grim. Greg's injury, though not life-threatening, needed proper attention, and their gear was too damaged to continue the trip. They decided to make their way back to the trailhead, a grueling 2-day hike. The journey back was tense. Every sound in the forest set their nerves on edge, and they moved with deliberate caution. Ethan led the way, his bear spray in hand, while Lucy kept to the rear, her camera forgotten as she scanned the trees for any sign of the bear. Greg, despite his injury, insisted on walking, his determination pushing him forward. By the second evening, they reached a ranger station near the trailhead. The rangers listened intently as the group recounted their ordeal, taking notes and marking the location on a map. They commended the group for their quick thinking and adherence to safety protocols, emphasizing that their actions had likely saved their lives. The bear was later tracked by wildlife officials, who determined that its aggression was likely due to hunger and territorial instincts. The incident sparked discussions about the challenges faced by wildlife in increasingly fragmented habitats and the importance of preparedness for backcountry adventurers. For the group, the encounter left lasting scars, both physical and emotional. Greg's shoulder healed with time, though he carried faint claw marks as a permanent reminder. Ethan, though shaken, continued to lead wilderness trips. His respect for nature's power deepened. Lucy's photography shifted focus, her images capturing not just the beauty of the wild, but its raw and unpredictable force. Anna, despite her fear, returned to the mountains, her love for the wilderness undiminished. The bear attack in the Rockies became a story they shared with friends and family, a tale of survival and the fine line between adventure and danger. For those who lived it, the memory of that summer night in the alpine meadow was a defining moment, a reminder of both the fragility and resilience of the human spirit in the face of nature's awe-inspiring power. In the spring of 2021, a team of 6 wilderness enthusiasts embarked on an ambitious trek through the vast and uncharted sections of Alaska's Wrangell St. Elias National Park. Known for its unforgiving terrain and unparalleled beauty, the park attracted adventurers seeking isolation and challenge. The group consisted of Clara, a seasoned mountaineer and the team leader, Mark, a wildlife photographer, Elena, a botanist; Henry, an experienced hunter and tracker; Sophia, a survival instructor; and Jason, a documentary filmmaker capturing the journey. The expedition's goal was to traverse 70 miles of rugged wilderness over 10 days, documenting the flora, fauna, and untouched landscapes along the way. They carried lightweight gear, enough provisions for the trek, and equipment to document their findings. Each member was prepared for the challenges ahead, or so they thought. The first few days were idyllic. The group traversed snow-covered ridges, crossed icy streams, and camped beneath sprawling skies filled with stars. Mark captured stunning images of caribou and eagles, while Elena collected samples of rare plants found only in the region. Despite the remote location, they adhered to strict safety protocols, including securing food in bear-proof containers and maintaining vigilance for signs of predators. On the 5th day, the group reached a secluded valley bordered by dense forests and glacial outcroppings. It was here that they planned to rest and resupply water from a nearby river. As they set up camp, Henry discovered fresh bear tracks near the riverbank. The prints were enormous, and the depth of the impression suggested a particularly large grizzly. Clara decided to establish the campsite a safe distance away and reminded everyone to keep their bear spray within reach. The night passed uneventfully, the forest alive with the calls of nocturnal creatures. By morning, the group continued their trek deeper into the valley. The tracks reappeared intermittently, but the team saw no signs of the bear itself. Spirits remained high, though an undercurrent of tension lingered. Late that afternoon, as they approached a narrow gorge, the tranquility shattered. From the forest's edge emerged a massive grizzly bear, its fur glistening with moisture and its eyes fixed on the group. The bear's size was breathtaking, its muscles rippling with every step. It sniffed the air, drawn by the group's presence and the faint scent of food. The team froze, their instincts taking over. Clara signaled for everyone to stay calm and slowly back away. The bear growled, a low rumble that vibrated through the air. Henry positioned himself at the front, his rifle ready but not aimed. Clara and Sophia raised their bear spray canisters, their hands steady despite the tension. The bear's charge was sudden and violent. It closed the distance in seconds, its powerful body barreling toward them. Henry fired a warning shot into the air, the sharp crack echoing through the valley. The bear halted momentarily, its ears flattening as it growled louder. The team began retreating, but the bear charged again, this time with unrelenting ferocity. It targeted Mark, who had stumbled while trying to grab his camera gear. The bear's claws raked his leg and he screamed in pain as Clara and Sophia fired bursts of bear spray. The mist hit the bear's face, causing it to roar and retreat slightly, but it remained a looming threat. Jason pulled Mark to safety, his hands shaking as he tried to staunch the bleeding. The team regrouped behind a cluster of boulders, their breaths ragged and their bodies trembling. The bear paced nearby, its growls deep and guttural. Elena worked quickly to bandage Mark's wounds, her movements precise despite her fear. Clara assessed the situation, her mind racing. They couldn't stay pinned down indefinitely, and Mark's injury required medical attention. Using their remaining food supplies as bait, the team devised a plan to lure the bear away. Sophia tied a bundle of provisions to a rope and tossed it toward the forest's edge. The bear's attention shifted as it caught the scent. It lumbered toward the bundle, sniffing and pawing at it. The group seized the opportunity to move, supporting Mark as they climbed the boulders and began their escape along a ridge. The terrain was brutal. The narrow ridge offered little stability, and the group moved cautiously, their adrenaline pushing them forward. Mark's condition worsened, his breathing labored as he leaned on Jason and Elena for support. The bear's roars faded into the distance, but they knew it could return. By nightfall, the team found temporary refuge in a rocky alcove. Exhausted and shaken, they fortified their position with makeshift barricades, using fallen branches and loose stones. Clara and Henry took turns keeping watch, their bear spray and rifle at the ready. The hours dragged on, every sound amplified by the silence of the wilderness. At dawn, the team resumed their trek, determined to reach higher ground where they might find better visibility and safety. They navigated through dense underbrush and across glacial streams, their progress slow but steady. The weight of their ordeal hung heavy, but their unity kept them moving forward. 2 days later, they reached an elevated plateau where a ranger station was marked on their map. The station was abandoned but intact, offering shelter and a radio to call for help. Clara made contact with park authorities, relaying their location and the urgency of their situation. A rescue team was dispatched, though it would take hours for them to arrive. As they waited, the bear reappeared. Its massive form emerged from the tree line, its dark eyes fixed on the station. The team braced themselves, fortifying the doors and windows as the bear approached. It circled the structure, growling and clawing at the walls. Henry fired another warning shot, but the bear's aggression remained undeterred. The team held their ground, using noise and flashes of light to keep the bear at bay. The standoff lasted until the distant hum of a helicopter broke the tension. The bear, startled by the sound, retreated into the forest. Moments later, the rescue team arrived, their presence a wave of relief for the exhausted group. Mark was airlifted to a hospital where he underwent surgery for his injuries. The rest of the team was treated for minor wounds and exhaustion. The bear was later tracked by wildlife officials, who determined that its aggression was likely caused by a combination of hunger and territorial behavior exacerbated by environmental changes. The experience left an indelible mark on the survivors. Clara continued leading expeditions, her respect for nature's power deepened by the ordeal. Mark, though scarred, returned to photography, his images capturing the raw beauty and unpredictability of the wild. Elena and Sophia became advocates for wildlife conservation, their work emphasizing the delicate balance between human activity and the natural world. Jason's documentary, though incomplete, became a testament to the team's resilience and a reminder of the wilderness's awe-inspiring power. The bear attack in Wrangell St. Elias became a story of survival and courage, a harrowing yet profound chapter in the lives of those who lived it. For years to come, they would recount the events of that expedition, their voices tinged with both reverence and respect for the untamed wilderness that had tested their limits and revealed their strength.